And I didn't do this on purpose. I didn't go into this project with the idea of, well, I want to talk about peace, and I want to talk about race, and I want to talk about class, or any of that stuff. I just found poems that I thought exemplify the concept of using words in their power to make change for the better for people. The interesting thing is that the poems pretty much self-divided into poetry of rage and demand, and then poetry of more reflective, quieter ways of expressing horrific or ugly truths about the world, and so invoking us to move away from those things. Well, that made me start thinking about Proud Mary and Tina Turner, and how Tina Turner would introduce the song that she would read, the song Proud Mary, and in that great voice talk about how that the way they do it is first they do it easy and then they do it hard. And they started with the easy and then they went to the hard. Well, for these purposes today, I wanted to start with the hard and then follow with the easy. And I thought we would begin, hey Leslie, where's that video?
It's right there on the desktop. Just double click it and it'll go.
Thanks. So, I Googled.
However it starts, it's got to be loud. And then it's got to get a little bit louder. But this is how you write a political poem and how you deliver it with power. Mix current events with platitudes of empowerment. Wrap it up in rhyme or rhyme it up in rap until it sounds cool. Glare until it sinks in. Because somewhere in Florida, votes are still being counted. I said, somewhere in Florida, votes are still being counted. See, that's your hook. You gotta have a hook. More than the look, it's the hook that's the most important part. Hook's gotta fit, hook's gotta hit hard in the heart. Because somewhere in Florida, votes are still being counted. And Dick Cheney is peeing all over himself in spasmodic glee. See what I did? Make fun of politicians. It's easy. Especially with Republicans like Rudolph Giuliani, Colin Powell, and Al Gore. Ooh, see what I did? I called Al Gore a Republican. That must mean that my political sensibilities are much more finely tuned than yours. Talk about idiotic juxtapositions of political personalities and ideologies, as if communism really were the opposite of democracy. As if we needed a Ralph Nader, not a Darth Vader. Amazing grace, how... Stop in the middle of a song that everybody knows and loves. This will give your poem a sense of urgency. Because there is always a sense of urgency in a political poem. There is no time to waste. Corruption doesn't have a curfew. Greed doesn't care what color you are. And the New York City Police Department is filled with police officers who carry guns on their hips and metal badges over their hearts. Remember, injustice isn't injustice. It's just in us, just as injustice is just in ice. Yeah! That is the only alien nation of this alien nation, where you either fight for free, dumb, or else you are free but dumb. Here in Freeborn Hall, where you are born free or free born and free. Yeah! And somewhere in Florida, votes are still being counted. And it makes me wanna because I have seen devastation of gentrification, and I can talk with great articulation about cosmic constellations and atomic radiation. I saw D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, but I prefer Disney's 102 Dalmatians. And like a cross-examination, I can give you the explanation of why films like Slam Nation are the ultimate manifestation of poetical ejaculation and egotistical manipulation and other things that rhyme like Asian with Haitian and this nation. And maybe it's true that they are still counting votes in Florida. But at the end of a political poem, that just doesn't matter anymore, because all you have to do to end a political poem is get real quiet, close your eyes, and end by saying the same line 3 times, the same line 3 times, the same line 3 times.
It is a recipe for how to write a poem, you know. In a way, it's ironic, but in a way, it's being ironic, but it really is good examples of how to use a poem to stir up the audience, to stir up the listener. And the thing about it that I think is very similar to what Jean read is the use of wordplay. And it seems to me like the use of wordplay is, from what I've read, very common in the more aggressive political poetry for some reason. It unleashes that creative use of language because you are unleashing a creative use of language, right? So the next thing I wanted to have us hear was 3 pieces by Langston Hughes. You got him there, Clarence?
Yeah.
Read away.
Okay. I just want to give a little preamble before I try to do Mr. Hughes' work justice. The first time I was introduced to Langston Hughes, I was a 13-year-old kid in the 8th grade, and the poetry that I read on these pages is not the poetry that I recall reading in grammar school.
Yeah, same here. Exactly.
Yeah, it was more socially uplifting. There was no militancy in his, not in the works that we read, that were channeled to us at that time. So anyway, I'm hoping that I can
So they kind of
give
censored
voice
him.
to this.
What's that?
They kind of censored him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm?
He was censored.
Yeah.
The poetry that we
He still explodes.
But you're saying he was more uplifting when he first wrote?
No.
No, the poetry that they gave in the grade school was his more uplifting and sugary stuff
Yes,
with, you know,
precisely.
Just like what I said earlier, that the poetry that we were exposed to was not the radical political poetry.
they whitewashed Langston Hughes.
whitewashed.
Fell children,
Right.
Yeah.
So,
vulgarized.
Yeah, it's not that these words didn't come from a deep place within him, didn't come from his heart, but it's just what that was.
Hey, he had to pay the bills, he sold some to Hallmark.
How's that?
He had to pay bills, so he wrote some poems for Hallmark.
Let's hear the poetry.
They were good poems too, but they were for a small younger audience, you know,
Right.
that's the way it is.
Right, that's right.
The other stuff we weren't aware of because we weren't at the age.
So the ones you have now is a later time?
No.
Uncensored?
not necessarily, no.
The ones that were published in the Daily Worker are not the Little Red School Book, right?
He wrote for different audiences is what he's getting
Yeah.
across.
Right.
And both Clarence and I were deprived of access to the political poetry. Go ahead, Clarence.
Okay, so anyway, I guess in part, I'm also trying to make an excuse for myself, which is lousy, to see if I can deliver the proper voice to his work that I've never read. The first selection is, do you want me to read all of them or just one?
All 3 of them, I think. I think it's shorter.
Okay, the first one is called Militant. Let all who will eat quietly the bread of shame. I cannot without complaining loud and long, tasting its bitterness in my throat and feeling my very soul it's wrong. For honest work you proffer me poor pay, and honest dreams you spit in my face, and so my fist is clenched today to strike your face. His next piece is called Black Workers, and it's very
Hold on just a
short.
second. We've got
The next piece is called Black Workers. The bees work. Their work is taken from them. We are like the bees, but it won't last forever. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. You see here, the same effect, the same response. It's like, wow,
I even know
exactly.
some of these political
Yeah.
poetry.
And the next piece is just a stanza, 4 lines, which that's what a stanza is. It's called History. The past has been a mint of blood and sorrow that must not be true of tomorrow. That's history.
Yeah, and read that again. I just think that sums up what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. The past has been a mint of blood and sorrow that must not be true of tomorrow.
And that's why we're gathered here today, is to try to use words to make sure that tomorrow does not just continue on the social injustices of the past. And I don't really think there's any way I can whitewash, so to speak, out of this whole thing today, the idea that we're here for change, and the kind of change we want is for a better place for all of us to live in. I mean, I thought for a minute about bringing in Ezra Pound, a little stanza from one of his poems where he's decrying usury and he doesn't say the great Jewish conspiracy or whatever, but we all know that about Ezra Pound. He was an anti-Semitic. He was a propagandist for Italy and the fascists.
Well, he wasn't anti-Semitic all his life. So, a lot of...
He apologized to Ginsburg near the end.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
Well, very good. And he was a world-class genius. But I decided that wasn't what I wanted to share with you guys today, to inspire you to write diatribes against the banks necessarily, but to think in terms of wanting to use your power and the power of your words to make things better for people, not to oppress people or suppress people or denigrate people. Next, I turn to Mescla.
There's one more.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
There's one more, the final one. It's called Go Slow. Go slow, they say, while the bite of the dog is fast. Go slow, I hear while they tell me, you can't eat here, you can't live here, you can't work here. Don't demonstrate, wait, while they lock the gate. Am I supposed to be God, or an angel with wings and a halo on my head, while jobless I starve to death? Am I supposed to forgive and meekly live? Go slow, 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 slow. 4 question marks, 3 question marks, 2 question marks, 1 question mark.
Yeah, that's how it ends, yeah. Thank you. So then I turn to Mescla just to look through it, and my gosh, it was an issue of carving down what I wanted to read from Mescla rather than the other way around. And the first poem is in Spanish, so I'm hoping someone who has a better accent than I will read it, but I'll introduce